Oh my god. So I just watched a new Baki and I had to make a video of the new part. So if you didn't watch my video, I just posted that a couple days ago. And let's get right into it. We start off with Baki getting a checkup after a fight with Pickle from previously. Dude's got a demon brain. He gets an MRI and everything, and his brain looks like a face. He, instead of having a demon back, which he also has, he has the fucking brain that looks like a demon. It's got all these folds in it, and it's insane. They basically imply that he's really smart, and you can kind of gauge from the last couple episodes that whenever he's like really down bad in a fight, he says something about endorphins, right? And his brain starts to melt or whatever the case is, and then he gets really good. So it's kind of referencing back to those moments. A little bit later, Baki is getting mugged by a guy with a knife. You guys feel Baki's power, and they're like, oh shit. The knife that's in the guy's hand, the guy imagines it shrinking in his hand while he's holding it because he just feels that helpless. We then see his teacher come and get Baki and kind of get him out of that situation with those fighters before Baki really messes them up. While he's with his teacher, they're kind of sitting down and he's reminiscing about his mother and her death and how Yujiro killed her, and how Yujiro took her away from her husband at the time. We get more flashbacks of him getting trained up. We then cut to Yujiro meeting with Oliver. They are essentially facing off. Yujiro grabs his hands and straight up just pranks him down to the ground. Oliver doesn't even stand a chance, but it's pretty nuts because like his whole thing is strength, yet he is bending his knees essentially to Yujiro, and it just shows how strong that he truly is. There's also a side story where that general guy tries to fight Yujiro, and he's using gunpowder and like his armor, and he totally gets slapped. Like nothing, he stands no chance against Yujiro. It's just a fun little moment. But another fun moment is Obama is back. Yes, he's back. And he's meeting with the prime minister. He's meeting with a bunch of other world leaders, and they're talking about how strong Yujiro is and how he's an issue and how they need to stop him. And Yujiro shows up in the room. Bad news for them. Yujiro basically intimidates them and it's like, really? You just made that promise with me, now you're going back on it? And they basically swear not to mess with him anymore. Also, Retsu's been training in boxing. A big promoter comes in and asks him to fight. He does a former world champion. He beats that former world champion. He then fights a contender, and he does beat that contender as well. Now, the contender is a harder fight, definitely. He gets rocked a little bit, and he's seen stars, but eventually he punches his own head to stop his concussion. How the fuck does that work? I don't know, but he does it. And then eventually he wins that fight by punching a nerve like right here, and it shuts the dude's brain down, basically. So back to Baki, plotting and talking about how to a point where he can fight his dad. Baki wants to do it naturally, so he wants to do it over like some simple argument or something like that. And then Yujiro shows up to Baki's little shack that he's got. He shows up for coffee. And Baki's actually surprised at this, that he actually showed up at all. He explains to his dad that if they're gonna fight, it's probably just gonna happen naturally, and it's not even gonna be like a competition, it's not even going to be a scheduled fight. It's just going to be something that happens if they disagree about something. And Yujiro's like, I agree, that sounds good. And then he takes a sip of his coffee, and he's like, he basically drinks all his coffee, and he's like, I'm so offended that you made me this shit coffee. And then he essentially wants to fight over the coffee being bad. And Baki's like, no, you like that coffee. You drank that thing in 2 sips. You liked it. Don't lie to me. And Yujiro's like, okay, fine. And then Yujiro ends up leaving. Oh, before he leaves though, Baki's like, okay, why don't you make me coffee then? And Yujiro's like, okay, I'll make you coffee. I'll make you coffee when you grab me by the neck and force me to make you coffee. That's when I'll make you coffee. That was a baller moment. This blonde dude ends up trying to fight Baki. He gets punished multiple times, but he keeps fighting. Eventually Baki's like, okay, well, I can do your style too. And his style is basically using your weak point against the other person by hitting them with it unexpectedly because they don't expect you to hit them with your own weak point. I don't know. It's a dumb fucking move in my opinion, but he uses it against that guy. He also uses a cool cockroach move that he learns, which is basically running at 160 miles an hour somehow by turning his muscles into liquid and then vapor and then forth very quickly. He uses those 2 moves in tandem to shoot forward really quickly and use his eyes to break this dude's fucking fingers. He puts his eyes into this guy's fingers and breaks them in like 2 different directions. it's pretty crazy. The dude's like, you know what? I can't even compete. I can't even deal with this right now. So he leaves. Oh, there's also another moment where Yujiro shows up for dinner again that Baki makes. Baki notices Yujiro's manners this time, and he's impressed because he's never seen this before. Baki asks him to do the dishes, and Yujiro says, okay, let's rock paper scissors for it. And so they end up rock paper scissors for it. Baki gets rock, Yujiro gets scissors, and Yujiro pulls some shit. He fucking squeezes Baki's fist with his own fingers and almost breaks his hand. And he says some dad shit, not gonna lie. This is like total dad moment. Some scissors are strong enough to cut through rock. What the fuck does that mean? Like, come on now. He got out of that shit and he left. But before he left, he invited Baki to dinner. Baki does show up for the fancy dinner. He goes to this hotel that's on like one of the top floors of a skyscraper. Towards the end of the fight, they're bonding a little bit at this dinner. They talk a little bit, but Baki asks about his mother and why Yujiro killed her. Yujiro gets pretty angry. They essentially start to fight at this point. Kind of. Yujiro straight up grabs Baki's face and throws him jumps through the window with him, and they're hurtling down towards the ground, and both of them land on a car like, I don't know, 100 stories up, like 500 feet up basically. It's pretty nuts. Baki ends up slapping Yujiro, and he feels like it's hitting a mountain. The narrator is describing some crazy shit at this point. They do whip strike each other. When Yujiro whip strikes Baki, Baki is fucking screaming, crying, rolling around, and when Baki does it back to him, Yujiro tenses all of his muscles up and resists the pain. He spreads the pain out through his whole body just by flexing. He just flexes that shit off. He's like, with his face still straight. It's pretty nuts. Baki starts losing pretty bad at this point. Yujiro's just blocking shit. He's just moving around. Baki can't really do anything to him. However, he does get a cool cockroach move in where he tackles him real fast. That's kind of cool. Baki does eventually show up, and he is doing really well. He uses a dinosaur technique, like he did with Pickle, and Yujiro's like, I've always wanted to fight a dinosaur, and Baki's like, oh shit. And so they do fight. Yujiro actually gets knocked down, not by the dinosaur thing, but by a different thing, which Yujiro's super impressed by that. He actually wants to pat Baki on the head. He's like, I'm proud of you. I want to pat you on the head. And Baki's like, no, what the fuck? No, you're not patting me on the goddamn head. And so Yujiro's like, all right, I'll do it anyways. So he grabs Baki, and he's like, this is true strength. He says, strength is the power to do whatever you want. And so he just pats him on the head. Baki's squirming, but he can't get out of his grip. And so, like, he makes a point right there. They're doing some crazy shit. And somehow Yujiro's dad and Baki's grandfather show up in a ghost form and starts talking shit to Yujiro. It's pretty funny. It's cool. Baki's like, damn, your shoulders are wide. It's a cool moment. Oh my god. Yujiro gets reminded from this. He gets reminded of a technique that his dad used to use. And he grabs Baki and starts whipping him around his body like nunchucks and fucking Baki up. Now, while he's doing this, blood's rushing to his head and endorphins are kicking into Baki's brain. And Yujiro's using him as nunchucks and hitting this car with Baki. And Baki is making a doll with the debris that he's kind of smashing into at this point. And he makes a doll and he gives it to Yujiro after he's done punishing him. And Yujiro's like, what the fuck? When did you make this? And Baki's like, oh, just now when you were throwing me around. What? It was a pretty cool moment. Yujiro's actually getting impressed at this point, which is kind of fun to see because you've never seen this side of Yujiro. You've never seen him impressed. You've never seen him proud, but he's kind of lightening up. He's like getting surprised. Baki's actually starting to surprise him, which is fun. And at this point, this series is kind of just about a father and son bonding by beating the shit out of each other. Instead of like throwing a baseball back and forth, they're just punching each other in the face. Baki showed his dad a true challenge and lived up to the Hanma name and even potentially surpassed it. Baki admires and understands his dad in a weird way, and they sort of reconcile. They're kind of equals, like Yujiro sees him as an equal, and they are starting to be a true father and son. They really are happy because they're both able to let loose and use all their moves and go all out, and so it makes them kind of happy that they're able to do that. Yujiro does hug Baki like he hugged Baki's mom, which hurts him. Yujiro does eventually slap the shit out of Baki's ears very, very, very hard. Baki goes down, skull basically shattered. But Yujiro actually claims Baki as the strongest man alive. Baki says, no, you won the fight. And so they come to an agreement that Baki is the strongest man alive and Yujiro won the fight. It's kind of a middle ground. which is impressive to see. Baki did get Yujiro to cook him a meal though. Yujiro kind of he kind of makes like a ghost meal though. They're imagining a meal on an imaginary table, but he does make Baki a meal. And it's a callback to earlier when he said, I'll make you fucking coffee when you force me to. At this point, Yujiro really respects Baki, so he does make him a meal, and it is sweet in that way. I haven't read the manga or anything, so I don't know where they're going to go with this further. I don't really see where it could go. To me, this kind of felt like the pinnacle fight in Baki, because Yujiro seemed like the villain, Baki seemed like the hero. They finally fought. There was finally some reconciliation there. There was conflict resolution. There was a closure to a situation. They could honestly end it here and it would probably be a good ending, but they're obviously not going to do that. There's obviously more crazy shit in the manga. I just don't know what, because I haven't actually read it myself. They could go into more story and relationship arcs. They obviously can get more crazy, which I'm sure they will do. That's kind of what Baki's known for. I feel like Baki did kind of lose his way a little bit. Yujiro killed his mom, and that's kind of fucked up, you know, to kill somebody's mom, to kill your son's own mom. But now they're bonding. Like, I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't forget that if that was the case for me. But I felt like Baki was a hero, Yujiro was a villain, and obviously it's more complicated than that. Baki's feeling some sort of way because this is his father. He looks up to him still, even though this man killed his mother. I mean, his mother wasn't the greatest woman either. She did beat the fuck out of him, and she was kind of creepy, and she told him that she never loved him, that she was just using him to get the love of his father. So maybe he didn't have the best relationship with her, but still doesn't excuse the fact that Yujiro also didn't love you until you were strong and all that. But he has Yujiro's respect and love now, so I think that's probably enough for Baki. I just hope that Baki doesn't turn out like his dad. Even though he admires him, I hope that he doesn't just take what he wants. I hope that he maybe eventually raises his own family and does it the right way, you know, doesn't neglect him, actually raises him with love and respect and care without having a specific goal in mind for him. And I would love for that kid to be even stronger because he was nurtured and was cared for the proper way, unlike Baki. That'd be a pretty cool payoff to show that you don't just have to neglect your child for them to be strong. You can also train them and nurture them and hone them yourself by doing it a different way other than that. Just once again surpassing his father in that way. Anyways, I do think they did do a good job with this season. This was a great anime, you know, from start to finish. Netflix did a pretty good job. Again, the animation, I don't have any complaints about it, even though some people do. I think it did really well for itself, and I'm excited to see where it goes in the future. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.